Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for our final recap of Heart and Hustle Houston season one. This is season one, episode 8. The Secret is Out. Overall, I enjoyed the series. I know that there were some mixed thoughts about it, but for me, I enjoyed it. I feel like it started on a high, and if I'm going to be honest, even though this last episode wasn't bad, it kind of fell flat for me because I feel like we didn't get as much of the hustle as I would have liked to seen. And for all we know, it could be because towards the end we had women switching jobs left and right. But I don't know. It was missing something. And it could even be the fact that the title is The Secret is Out. And once we heard the secret, I couldn't help but feel like we weren't being told everything. It still doesn't feel right to me. But go ahead and do me a favor and like this video. Also, think about what your rating is for the overall season because I'd like you to put it in the comment section. Let's do from 0 being the lowest to, let's do to 10, because I don't want to do a 0 to 5 and then give them a 3. I feel better about doing a 0 to 10 and maybe giving them like a 7. So we're going to do a scale of 0 to 10 on how you rate this season. So we begin this episode picking up where we left off, where Josh and Elena are in therapy, trying to figure out what has caused them to have an even further rift than they already had. He's beginning to talk about it and he's struggling to get it out, talking about things happen and whatever else. And when he finally gets it out, I was so underwhelmed because I thought it was going to be something really, really serious about cheating, like to the point where it escalated or she caught him or something like that. And what we hear, or what we're told, is it didn't have anything to do with cheating at all. That what happened was Josh decided to take it upon himself without really consulting his wife to invest in some stocks. He thought that this would be life changing, but he jacked it up and he kept on jacking it up and messing it up and messing it up. And he did this for an entire year while keeping it from his wife. As a result of this, he ended up losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's a big amount of money here. And Elena didn't find out about it until she wanted to make a big purchase for her salon. That is when she found out. She didn't say studio, she said salon, which makes me feel like the whole thing in the beginning where we found out that she was closing down that business and going into the smaller one, it didn't quite make sense to me why she would be closing it down if it were as successful as she was saying it was. And it seems like one of the reasons why they probably closed it down, and I could be wrong, you all let me know, but was because they were having problems with their money. Because she said that as a result of his decisions and his choices, that she had to sell her home and rebuild. She tells the therapist that in her mind, he didn't even really need to invest anything because they were in a good spot. And she's struggling to say what she really wants to say. And her therapist is like, no, go ahead and say what it is. And she says, I feel like he did this because I was the breadwinner and he was uncomfortable with that. He, of course, doesn't agree because he feels like he put time into the business as well. And the business aspect of it was important as well. I get all of that, but there was some resentment there. It's clear there was. He said he's a man and he was focused on her makeup brand. Whose fault is that? You shouldn't have put all into it like that if you weren't going to be okay with her being in a position of power. So the therapist let them know that the problem is that at some point, Josh felt insecure and now it has affected their family in other ways. One of those ways is that his wife doesn't trust him. Dr. Angela lets them know that he basically broke his covenant to his wife because he decided to do all of this solo, to do it without her, and that's not how it's supposed to work. Now he still wants her, he loves her. She says that she loves him too, but she doesn't know if the trust can be rebuilt. I don't think you all ever had any trust because she told us that she found out while she was engaged that he cheated on her. And even knowing that she was engaged and he cheated on her, she decided to go through with the marriage and get married, excuse me, go through with the wedding and get married to him. And now here he is betraying her again. And there's so much more to it than I think she's even telling us, because even later on she's struggling to tell the women, like, you didn't just put this out here on television for all to see. I personally do not think that they're going to make it. And the little end card kind of makes me feel like I'm right. This is what I wrote at the beginning of my notes. I don't think they can make it. So Josh, as I said, cries because he feels like he let himself and her and everyone else down, and she holds him and tells him to breathe. Once again, putting her own feelings to the side to comfort this man who caused them to be in this position. This segment really pissed me off because I feel like this is something that could have been said at the very, very beginning of the episode. I get that she was embarrassed, as she said. I get that she felt silly for not knowing about their finances. I get that she feels silly for staying, but I wish she told us this from the beginning, because now, this being the big secret, it feels flat. There is so much more to it, to me, than what they're showing us, because she even later said that she alluded to the fact when she was in confessional talking about the girls trip, that one of the reasons why this is her first girls trip is because before, in the many years that she was married, she was not secure enough in her marriage to go, and then she mouthed and they wrote the words down because of control. So there's a lot that we don't know about that dynamic. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some financial abuse going on there, as well as some other things. But that's just my thoughts. Tell me yours. So Labrina is hosting the ladies for this girls' trip at this Texas version of Napa, as they call it. Her plan is for them to hang out and have a good time. We see the ladies arrive and their energy is good, but it's obvious when Elena comes in that she's a little off, mainly because of everything that's been going on with her and her husband. And it seems like she's been keeping it in for this entire time. So they head to a wine tasting, they play a little cornhole, and then they sit to talk a little bit. They talk about how much they enjoyed Latoria's party. And Latoria then talks about, how beautiful she felt, how beautiful Elena made her feel while doing her makeup and the things that she was saying to her, that for her, it was just nice to be pampered because she's always pouring into others. She tells them that she has been thinking, because I think it was Manera asks, like, how long have you been thinking about, switching your role in business? And she says, I've been, going back and forth about it for like 2 years. I've been thinking about leaving the entertainment scene for 2 years. And there's a lot of people who were surprised by my decision. So Labrina's like, look, I get it, because my original occupation was being a hairstylist, and I had been doing that for years. And I went from a place where I was making decent money to then deciding to jump into this industry, this spa business, and I struggled. She said, I did that before I met my husband, and I was struggling for a while. I was in the hood working, doing what I was doing. So I get it. But anything, when it comes out to like being a faith move, if you really want it, you're going to have to, fight for it. So the ladies then compliment Ro because Ro is glowing and growing. And she says that for her at this point, she's in a space now where it's just about self love, and she's no longer in survival mode. When I heard her say that, boy, oh boy, do I get it. I overstand what it feels like to be in survival mode, where you are just making sure that you keep your head above the water and your emotions in check, because you got to make sure that you show up the way that you're supposed to show up when it comes to your job, as well as the way you're supposed to show up when it comes to your kid. So hearing her say that she's shifting out of that to self-love, beautiful thing. We then go to dinner outside under the stars, and Chef Seven is their private chef. Chloe cannot get enough of him. She is flirting left and right. And Elena's like, I mean, are you still with Jordan or not? Because I can't understand how you're able to act this way when you have Jordan. And she says, look, I am not married. I am never going to put all my eggs in one basket when I'm not married. I'm a single woman. And I get what she's saying, but there are some things that could be taken too far. And me personally, she kept on flirting with that man. And that was in a matter of moments. So I don't know if I really take Jordan and Chloe that seriously, even though later we're supposed to believe that she's thinking about marriage with him. We'll get to it. So next, Manera wants to know how things went with therapy for Elena and Josh. She says, they went, well, the session was very heavy, and he shared some things and said some stuff, and they're like, okay, what did he share? What are you talking about? The ladies are tired of hearing evasive answers. They want to know what he shared. So she says, he made some horrible investments that caused our money to dwindle. So Chloe's like, what did he do? Like, he went to the strip club? Like, he gambled? What are you talking about? So she's like, gosh, Chloe, no, it's day trading. The way you're skirting around the issue is making people feel like it's something more. That's the problem. I didn't really like the way Elena showed up in this episode. I get that she's going through things, but don't take it out on your friends. So we'll get to it. So she doesn't trust him at this point. All of the ladies are now getting it because they're like, look, I think it was Ro who was like, he took her money and put them in a bad space. I would leave him too. I wouldn't trust him either. I wouldn't be sleeping in bed with him. Like, they all did different variations of how if the roles were reversed, there would be some problems there. So they ask her if she considered divorce, and she's not sure. She announces that she loves him, but she's not in love with him. And some of the girls are surprised to hear this, while others are not. Labrina is one of them who is in shock. She says, when I see them together, I don't see two people that are in love with each other. And I think none of us did. I know I didn't. I couldn't understand why she was still with him, because it was so evident to me that it was something that she was holding on to, but her heart really wasn't in it. And who can blame her when you find out the things that you find out? So Manera lets her know that that kind of explains things for her, because they all felt her dark cloud and her energy, to the point where they may have wanted to be there for her, but then that dark energy, that dark cloud consumed her, and they didn't know how to handle it. And Elena gets offended by the fact that Manera is saying this, and proceeds to say that she didn't realize that it was something that the others felt. So Ro is sitting beside her, and Ro is like, yeah, I felt it. It was to the point where I was uncomfortable to even have certain conversations with you, because there's things that I wanted to say, but I'm going to say this to you, not to the married you, but just to you. If you aren't happy, then leave. There is so much more to this than her just picking up and leaving. There are kids to consider, and I think that may be another reason why she was apprehensive. But at the same point, there's only so much information your friends can give you when you're still being evasive about it. So Elena feels like, because I think Ro was like, are you trying to stay because you're supposed to, or because you want to? And she basically said both. So she feels like she's supposed to fight for this. She says that she's waiting on God to show her some things. And once you start talking about you waiting on God to show you some stuff, there's no more that I could say. That's the end of that. And we get the next day. It's a new day. The ladies gather and talk about one impactful thing that they experienced during the girls' weekend. Latoya says, opening up is beautiful. In friendship, her storm may not be your storm, but she wants to be surrounded by people who are willing to hand over their umbrella. We go from talking about umbrellas to then talking about dark clouds, because Elena is offended by Manera saying that her energy was a dark cloud, while the other ladies are agreeing. I don't feel like dark cloud If she didn't say dark cloud, I don't think this would have been an issue. I think that if she would have said that her energy was heavy, that it would have been received differently. So she feels like, as a friend, that Manera should have checked on her more to see if she's good. And Manera's like, "What are you talking about? I was checking on you. I was making sure that you were good. I was there for you." So Elena's like, "No, you weren't." So the backstory that we get, which makes me feel like Manera was, but at some point Manera felt away as well and didn't communicate that. But at some point, those two ladies used to communicate with each other all the time. Elena's father passed away and Manera was there for her. But when Manera had back-to-back losses in her family, back-to-back deaths in her family, I think she said like 7, Elena was not there for her. It just so happens that some of those losses coincided with the same time she was struggling with her husband about this whole financial situation. So she feels like she should have been there more for her. But at the same time, Manera's like, "How can I be there more for you when you're not telling me what exactly is going on?" She's like, "Not only that, you didn't show up for me when I had all my deaths and stuff going on." She's like, "You're the type of friend that wants people like me to check in on you all the time, even though you don't do it." And Elena doesn't feel that way. But Elena, if she's saying that she spoke to you from time to time to see how you were doing, it does kind of sound like you have certain thoughts when it comes to your friends. She feels like Elena has a lot of negative energy, and they are going back and forth about this. And I didn't personally feel like they should be having this conversation in front of everyone. I feel like two things can be true, but I feel like she would have received it differently had she just chose different words, because she was really, really hanging on the dark cloud thing. So Labrina points out that apart from the whole dark cloud comment, that Elena just feels like Manera wasn't there for her, that there was a level of expectation there, maybe. And Manera's like, "Okay, well, there should be a level of expectation going both ways, but there has to be some reciprocating there. Like it can't be a thing where I'm just the only person pouring into her." Elena isn't trying to hear it. She's still stuck on the whole wording. Manera feels like Elena knows her heart, and Elena says she doesn't, but she's only saying that in that moment because she's mad. Manera leaves. Labrina's like, "You guys need to talk." They do. So she goes outside. They talk, tells her she loves her, that she's like a friend and a sister. And Manera can't understand how you can say in one breath that you don't know my heart, but then in the next say, "I'm like a friend and a sister." I don't understand it either, but it's clear she was mad at you. That's why she said it. She wants them to be there for each other. Elena feels like she was minimizing her feelings. Manera feels like, well, maybe it was, something else going on there. Maybe they were triggered, yada, yada, yo. Long story short, they love each other and they hug it up. All is well for the moment in this episode. So the ladies are back in the kitchen and they're laughing and they're talking. And Labrina decides to present each one of the ladies with flowers. So she gives Manera white flowers because they represent peace. And she knows that this is something that she fought for when it's come to her mom and to her family and to her husband. Elena gets colorful flowers. She tells her, for her, she's going to say own it. She tells her it represents new beginnings. You owned who you are becoming, and she's proud of what that looks like for her. She gives Latoya orange flowers, and she says that represents her confidence being on 1,000. She says it's beautiful to have watched the transformation that has happened with her. She's been seeing her heal and transform before her eyes. Chloe gets yellow flowers for forgiveness. She wants Chloe to forgive herself for the things that happened in the past. She wants Chloe to stop looking back and to grow and evolve into what's new. Ro gets red because it symbolizes love. She feels like Ro has walked into this new place and space, and she's proud that she's embracing love, loving herself, and understanding her worth. And this makes Ro emotional. The next thing you know, All of the ladies are taking one of their flowers and giving it to Labrina, and they are pouring into her. And in that moment, I said, this is one of the things that I liked about this group of women, is because they're actual friends, majority of them. You can feel that there is a mutual respect and camaraderie between them. So Labrina says a whole bunch of things. What I did right was, may your, not Labrina, Latoria says a bunch of things to Labrina. She says, may your growth continue to elevate you. May you stand 10 toes down on who you are. May you embody the worth that you pour into others. May you never feel like you're not good enough. May you celebrate yourself whether anyone claps for you or not. And as she's saying this, the tears are just streaming down her face. She's told by Manera that what she has is a calling. We hear Elena say that God places people where you have voids to fill you up. I very much so believe that. I very much so believe that the universe or God, whatever you believe, has a way of helping to fill the gap. Now, there are people who will never be replaced, but there are people who enter your life who help kind of, put a little bit of patchwork to some of those holes. So that's the end. That's it. And we get updates. Y'all, I feel like we could have got a couple more episodes. I don't know. I'm hoping that this is renewed. And I hope if they come back, we get more of them and their families as the heart, and a lot more of their work, because these ladies are doing some things in Houston. And I just feel like we didn't get, yeah, like I don't even remember a whole bunch of Manera except for the first couple of episodes. Then she kind of just popped in here and there. Like I feel like we could have got more, but they did a great job overall. So Labrina's updates are that she's expanding her spa and launching a Pilates studio. Her son Pop is home full time, and their 5-acre ranch is up for sale, but that is because they're upgrading to a 50-acre ranch. How many animals do you have? My goodness. Because the view that we got of 5 acres, I can only imagine what the 50 look like. Them people, they got a little bit of coin, honey. So, we found out that Latoria stepped away from Rain. She's thinking about exploring the adoption process, and she's still looking for her Mr. Right. Maneria is the influencer that she's still an influencer, and now she wants to go to therapy. Her and Elena are still rocky. Chloe and Nico are working on their relationship. Chloe is still with Jordan, even though Jordan and Nico have not met. She's still thinking about marrying him. You were flirting with the chef one moment, and now you're serious with your boyfriend so much so that you're talking marriage, but your kid hasn't even met the man. And you already know how he feels about it. Y'all aren't going to be in a good place next season, I don't think. Ro ended her 4-year on and off again relationship with the NBA player. She is now consulting for high-end restaurants and embracing her soft girl era. And for Elena, Color du Jour Makeup Lounge has been a huge success. Her marriage, however, is not, and Josh moved out. And that's it. That's it. Decent ending. I wouldn't really want that to be the final episode, but that was the final episode. And it was okay. I wanted, if I'm being honest, I wanted a little bit more. I think that the ladies did a tremendous job. I think that there's a lot more that they can do with this. I feel like a lot of people started watching this kind of late. I hope that it is renewed. I hope that we get to see there be a actual like change in things and get some more stuff. Maybe see Josh moving out. Maybe see, more things with Elena and see how she shows up after having him out of her home. I think that overall, out of this season, that my favorite remains to be Labrina and Ro. I don't know what it is about Labrina and Ro, but I knew I instantly liked Labrina. I think Ro, I saw a different side of her when she started talking about some things maybe in episode 2, and for the most part I've enjoyed all of these ladies. Now, it was a little mess here and there, but it wasn't over the top, And I appreciate the fact that it wasn't that over the top dramatic stuff. But at this point, I am rambling and I want to know your thoughts. Overall, I'm going to rate the entire season a 7. Let me know yours. Until next time.